Okay, I could send it out later. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen, going to this, the development of rabbinic literature, Matzah on Erev Pesah. Okay, so we have this halakha. I'm starting from Rambam. Usually I like to start from the sources, but this one I'm going to start from Rambam and go backwards. So Rambam says this is Mishneh Torah Ilchot Hametz u'Matzah 6:12. Says Asru Hachamim lechol matzah be'erev HaPesach kedei sheyeh heker la'achilata ba'erev. The sages have forbidden the eating of matzah on the day preceding Pesach, the eve of Pesach, in order to make it conspicuous at night, which the explanation is Rambam's. It's not written, not necessarily the only one, maybe that's written in the Talmud, but he says so you know that the difference between Erev Pesach and Pesach. Umi she'achal matzah be'erev Pesach, and if one ate matzah on Erev Pesach, makin oto makat mardut ad shetetzeh nafsho, he gets lashes until he dies. And in the original, like when I went to Sefaria to pull up the source, and this was not translated. I edited in. I think whoever was teaching it and created the translation to Sefaria was afraid to translate that.
Where did that come from?
Right, where does it come from, right? And then he concludes, V'chen asur lechol erev HaPesach mikodem haminha kim'at, and the one is also not allowed to eat on Erev Pesach a little before minha. What is a little? Question. Why? Kedei sheikanes la'achilat matzah beta'ava, so he will arrive at eating matzah with appetite. אבל אוכל לו מעט פירות או ירקות, ולא ימלא קרסו מהם, but he can eat some fruit and vegetables, though he should not fill up with them. והחכמים הראשונים היו מרעיבים עצמן ערב הפסח, the ancient sages used to go hungry on the day preceding Pesach, כדי לאכול מצה בתאווה, ויהיו מצות חביבות עליו, so that they might eat מצה with appetite, and they should love the מצות, אבל בשאר ערבי שבתות או ערבי ימים טובים, אוכל והולך עד שתחשך. On the other eve of Shabbat, or holidays, you can eat until darkness falls. Okay, so in general, like we can understand the idea of first don't eat matzah, so they have a difference when Pesach starts, and don't eat too much, so you could eat at the Seder night, right? Which shows you, by the way, the Rabbi was Sephardi, because for him, when Seder starts, you don't eat at midnight. Like some people, Divrei Torah and all that, and the Seder goes on and on and on, and you eat like at 11:30, a minute before the last time for a fikom, and you have 15 minutes to eat, and then it's a little different. Anyway, but the question is where this
right away?
What? No, not right away, but like a little faster usually. And also we have the custom among the Sfaradim is to when you do karpas. I mean, now it has changed, but originally it was that when you have karpas, you have vegetables on the table, and you also eat the egg at that time. So you're not starved when you say this the Haggadah. But this really is a problem.
I know why my son-in-law is antsy all the time.
So, but the Achet Tetzeh Nafsho, like you give him lashes until he dies, is really strange, and the commentators really struggle with that. So some say this is because it's a rabbinical thing, and the rabbis had to establish their authority. They say, Rambam says that, but they comment on that. It means that you give the rabbinical decree a greater status than that of the Torah, because the Torah says that if one deserves lashes, it cannot be more than 39, and on that, the Halakha says, the rabbis say, even not that. You have to assess how much can that person, it could be one or two. And here you say, Rambam says, until he dies. Then someone else says in his commentary that it's not the correct reading in Rambam is not Misha Achal Matzah, one who ate matzah, meaning it's already done, and you give him the lashes as punishment. It should be Ha'ochel Matzah, he who eats matzah, meaning he is in the act of eating, so you have to beat him until he stops. And if he doesn't stop, he dies, it's fine. Which was also strange, because who is this crazy guy who keeps eating matzah on Erev, right? Right? How much can you eat before, right? So it's a problem. Thank God that one of the scholars of the late generation, Rabbi Adoniah Cohen Krauss, who searched for all the accurate versions and texts of Rambam, says that in several of the ancient manuscripts, those three words, Achet Tetzeh Nafsho, until he dies, don't appear. But it's an ancient mistake already, because the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, who lived in the 14th century, already comments on it. So it got in pretty early. But that is in itself, when we're talking about development of halakha, this is a common thing. It's called ta'ut adomot, or it's more shigrat halashon, inertia. You're familiar with a certain phrase that appears in halakha, and you're a scribe that copies manuscripts, and you complete the phrase from memory. So the phrase, you give someone lashes until he dies, does appear, but somewhere else, not about matzah. Here, what Rambam originally wrote, only give him lashes. The scribe writing and sort of completing from memory, not even looking at what he writes, kept on writing. So in today's culture, it's called damn you autocorrect, right? And in the past, it was damn you scribe. That was a big problem. Scribes would complete, sometimes subconsciously, maybe deliberately. Maybe the scribe said, hey, I know this phrase and something's missing. And that's very common in the Talmud, by the way. In the Talmud, that as we think is edited and cleaned and polished, it's not. There's a lot of cases like that where a whole sugya was lifted from one place and pasted somewhere else just because it looked like it. Okay, so first he doesn't die. But still we want to know, why is it such a grave sin that for one you will get lashes, right? So the commentators direct us to this statement in the Yerushalmi Talmud in Pesachim. Amar Rabbi Levi, האוכל מצה בערב הפסח כבעל ארוסתו בבית חמיב, והבעל ארוסתו בבית חמיב לוקה. Rabbi Levi said, one who eats matzah on the eve of Passover is like one who has intercourse with his betrothed in the house of his father-in-law. And if he does that, he deserves lashes. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That
makes sense now.
It makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Right. It doesn't make. No, it makes sense why Rambam would say lashes, but where does this analogy come from, right? So yeah, the commentators say we could try to reason with that and say the Erusin at the time of the Talmud took place about a year or two before the wedding. So the first two brachot that we say today, people would get engaged, and then they were not allowed to be with each other or anyone else until the wedding. It would take 2 years or a year.
Why did they wait so long?
The brachot were to lock it in place, and then the wedding was the wedding to consummate the marriage. Something was done at a young age. Sometimes it was sort of an agreement, and the husband had to still keep working and make money, whatever. But the rabbis realized that this waiting period is too long, so they shorten it to what we have today. Depends on the rabbi who does the kiddushin. It goes anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, right? But still, it's tolerable, right? But they say, so we could say, that person who had sexual relation with his betrothed, with his arusa, in her father's house before the wedding, and he can't wait. It's just like the guy who can't hold himself from eating matzah until the night. Really? It's with arusa, there's an established law by the rabbis that this is a certain type of relationships that they're not allowed to be together, and not so with the matzah. Why would it be forbidden to eat matzah on Erev Pesach? What is the problem there? So let's look at the Gemara now. Now we're going back to our Talmud, which is, by the way, the same. It comments on the same Mishnah as this Yerushalmi. In Yerushalmi, it's page 68, but it's commentary on chapter 10 of the Mishnah. And here in the Talmud Bavli, in page 99, we read this: Erev Pesachim, some read Arvei Pesachim, Samuch LaMincha, Lo Yochal Adam Ad Shetechshach. On the eve of Pesach, adjacent to Mincha, a person may not eat until dark. I'm skipping the commentary here, in between. Afilu ani sheB'Yisrael lo yochal ad sheyasev. Even the poorest of Jews should not eat until he reclines. V'lo yifchatu lo me'arba kosot shel yain v'afilu min hatamhui. And they should not give him less than 4 cups of wine, even if it's from the charity plate or from the soup kitchen. I'm only reading the bold text here. So, okay, so the first line says, Erev Pesachim, Samuch LaMincha, Lo Yochal Adam Ad Shetechshach. If near It's almost minha, which is like it's about an hour and 15 minutes.
That's the time that they're talking about for Erev Pesachim?
Yes,
It's only for that time. It's not from the morning.
not from the morning, right?
Okay.
You cannot eat until it's dark. So the Gemara asks the question, why you discuss particularly the eves of Passover? This halakha applies even on the eve of Shabbat and other festivals, as it was taught. The Tanya לא יאכל אדם בערבי שבתות וימים טובים מן המנחה ולמעלה כדי שייכנס לשבת כשהוא תאווה דברי רבי יהודה. It was taught a person should not eat on the eve of Shabbat from minha onward, so that he will enter Shabbat when he has a desire to eat. So if it applies on Shabbat and all other festivals, same with Pesach. But that's only the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosei says, Omer, ochel ve'olech ad shetechshach. He could continue eating until dark. So there are two opinions in the Mishnah. One says you could eat Erev Shabbat all day long. One says you have to stop early.
This is eating anything.
Anything, yeah. Amar Ravuna. So Ravuna explains, Lo tzricha ela leRabbi Yosei. This is only necessary according to the opinion of Rabbi Yosei. The Amar ochel ve'olech ad shetechshach, who said that you could continue until dark. Hanemile be'arvei Shabbatot ve'yamim tovim. That's only on Shabbat. אבל בערב הפסח, משום חיובה דמצה מודה. But on Erev Pesach, because you have the obligation to eat matzah, he agrees that you cannot eat. Rav Papa אמר, אפילו תאמר רבי יהודה, even if you say that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, הטעם בערבי שבתות וימים טובים, מן המנחה ולמעלה הוא דאסיר. Over there, on the eve of Shabbat and festivals, it's only from the minha time onward that it is prohibited. אבל סמוך למנחה שרי, but adjacent to minha it is permitted. אבל בערב הפסח, אפילו סמוך למנחה נמי אסור. But on Pesach, even adjacent to minha is also prohibited. And that's where I think we're starting to have problems with the Mishnah, because where is it written? The Mishnah says, Erev Pesachim, samuch laminha, right? On Erev Pesach, near minha, don't eat until it's dark. How do I know from here that it's different than Shabbat? That on Shabbat I could eat until darkness, and here I have to stop samuch laminha. It's a bit confusing, and in many cases this is what we see when we look at the discussion of the Talmud of what's happening in the Mishnah, and we say, where is it written? How am I supposed to infer from the written text of the Mishnah that this is the halakha? Is it deliberately written in a way?
So this Mishnah isn't trying to tell us anything about Shabbat and other Chagim.
No, just Pesach. Right.
And for Pesach, it's telling us from when you can eat. And the question is that the same as the rule for Shabbat and other Yemim Tovim? And differing opinions. One is, clearly it's not. And the other one, because it says you can't eat. And the other one says, no, well, the difference is one is from Mincha and forward. The other one is even a little before Mincha you can.
Yes.
We don't know what Samuch exactly.
And it's a very fine distinction that we're not
5
aware of.
minutes maybe.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. So for that, right. Yeah. But we have to go back to the Hebrew of the Mishnah, because there's something here which is misleading. But right now we're just going through the Gemara, as they call Girsa. We're just grinding it. One more passage here. Where are we? Oh, Erev Shabbat. Rav Papa Amar. Didn't we say that? Oh, I'm sorry, I pasted it again. So skip like to the middle of this paragraph. Erev Shabbat samuch laminha sharei. And is it okay to eat on Erev Shabbat near minha? Ve'atanya לא יאכל אדם ערב שבת וימים טובים מתשע שעות ולמעלה כדי שייכנס לשבת כשהוא תאווה. You're not allowed to eat from 9 hours onward. What is 9 hours? That's the time when you take sunrise to sunset, you divide it by 12, or more or less. I mean, there are different opinions, but broadly speaking, sunrise to sunset, you divide it by 12 times 9. That's 9 temporary hours. So it's about 3 hours before sunset. That's sort of like midway between noon and sunset. That was called this way, right? Mm-hmm. And that's according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda doesn't tell you to stop shortly before minha. He says to stop a long time before that. Again, there's another paragraph here that repeated. That's because of the shenanigans of Safaria. They have to fix it. Every time I have to go back to the it's still complicated. Anyway, the conclusion here, it's not the end of the conclusion, it's just halfway. Amar Mar Zutra, man le malandi metaratztahi. Mar Zutra say, who will say to us that version of the Baraita is accurate? I mean, they got entangled with the Baraita. They say, Mar Zutra say, I'm not sure that this Baraita is correct. The answer in the Talmud is, no, I was present when someone read this Mishnah to that sage and he okayed it. Okay? So we know that we're dealing with a problematic text. But let's now go back to the Hebrew, going up to the Mishnah. And I want to show you that the difference, like the Gemara plunges into the analysis without looking, and it's, I know it sounds critical, but yeah, the comparison between the Erev Pesah language and the Shabbat language is inaccurate. Why? I'm going back to the Mishnah. Erev Psahim, Samuch Laminha, Lo Yochal Adam Ad Shetehshach. Right? So it says you are not allowed to eat until that moment. So that moment marks what? The beginning of your eating. You're not allowed to eat until that moment comes, then you're allowed to eat. And when we speak about Erev Shabbat, we have two opinions. One says, Lo yochal adam mina minha ulemala. So don't eat from the minha onward. So the marker is when you stop eating. And Rabbi Yosef Omer, ochel ve'olech ad shetehshach. You could go on eating until darkness, meaning you don't have to stop. Because if you eat until it is dark, that means that you could continue eating. So the marker of the Mishnah is when you start eating on Erev Pesach. The marker of the Baraita that speaks about Shabbat is when you stop eating or when you don't stop eating. So they're talking about completely different things. How can you compare them? Maybe they are talking about the same thing, but the language should have been, right, on Erev Pesach, Erev Psahim, Samuch Laminha, Mina Minha, right, Lo Yochal Adam, that's it. Or Erev Psahim, Lo Yochal Adam, Mina Minha, Ad Shetehshach. But here, the marker is Ad Shetehshach, when are you allowed to eat? It seems like it's a different issue.
But they are talking about two different issues. One is, when do you need to stop eating?
Yeah.
And the other is, when do you not eat matzah only?
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything else that you eat.
Right. But this is an assumption that we have because we already read the Rambam who says that we're dealing with matzah, which, by the way, after the Rambam wrote with such harsh language that, anyone who eats matzah is going to die, the poskim and people took it to the next level. Some people don't eat matzah from Rosh Chodesh Nisan to mark the whole month. You know this minhag?
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't eat from Purim because they have to have it 30 days. No. Some people don't eat celery or haroset or anything that is going to be on the table at the Seder night for that whole day. So they extended it. It's like, if I really want to make a difference, I am not allowed to eat all these things, right? This is an example of how halakha, especially when it's phrased with harsh language, people take it further, right?
But the only mitzvah is eat matzah, right? I mean, all the others you don't have to use celery,
Right.
You don't have to.
Right, but it's not. But the Mishnah doesn't say matzah. That's the thing.
Right.
It says lo yochal.
So it just talks about
The
eating.
matzah is commentary in Yerushalmi. If you eat matzah on Erev Pesach, you get lashes.
So the Mishnah you're saying says you can't begin adjacent to when adjacent to Mincha, whatever that time is,
Right.
you can't start eating.
Right.
And you may not eat until dark, which means you stop at adjacent to
Minha.
and you can start again when the Chag or Shabbat starts.
Right. So it does mention you saying when you should stop. Is
Right.
that
Because it's because you can eat up until adjacent to Mincha, and then you can either say you stop eating
Right.
or you can't start. I mean, it's
No, you're right.
On
It
the
is. It
side
is.
of
It
the
is there, but
And so then-
the hierarchy is different.
Right. And then you're saying the Gemara is saying,
That it's about when do you stop eating?
when do you stop eating? But it leaves off the when you can
Start eating.
Well, but the assumption in the Gemara, wouldn't the assumption be as soon as it's Shabbat? Let's say we're talking Erev Shabbat.
Right.
As soon as it's Shabbat, you light the candles, you can
Right.
say Kiddush and Matzah and start. So the fact that it's unsaid, is that meaningful?
You know what? By itself, and the truth is, I didn't get to this conclusion from the Talmud. After I analyzed other sugyot, then I came back to the Gemara. I said, "Oh wow, this is not even the discussion." You're right. It's easy to make this this mistake of that we have in the Gemara because it looks very similar. But think of that. Until nowadays, we have a clear difference between when we start Shabbat, Kiddush, right, and Pesach. Let's say you're tired, you don't want to go to shul Friday night, you're going to daven at home and eat with the family. You're going to do Kiddush maybe even half an hour before sunset or with sunset or something like that. But Saturday night, people are very careful nowadays to start 35 minutes after sunset, if not more, some 72 minutes. So there is a significance to the beginning time of the Seder, which, by the way, is not halakha. The tool says you should start early, that you should have everything set beforehand, so you could eat matzah kesheteshach. The time to eat matzah is when darkness falls. So 35 minutes after sunset, you should be at korech, at eating matzah, motzi matzah.
You should do that. So,
We should have an early meeting on Pesach. Yeah.
But what's the mistake of the Gemara?
Oh,
Based on
so-
the understanding of the.
Oh yeah. So let's go to the next source, and then that's when I want to look at. That's really sort of the answer.
It seems talking about mincha time. Mincha time is it?
Right. It's from a little
Why so
afternoon.
imprecise?
Right. So that's a good question. Put it aside. It's right. Now. This is from
Wasn't invented yet.
this is for this Mishnah. The next one, which is Psahim 55a, is from chapter 4 in Masechet Psahim. Now the chapter begins, and I should have put the Mishnah here, with a discussion of the minhagim of Erev Pesach. Some places they had a minhag to work regularly on Erev Pesach until midday, and in some places they didn't work the whole day. Now we don't have this minhag today. We don't think of it in that manner, right? So where does it come from? So in chapter 4, I think it's Mishnah Vav, it says, "V'hachayim omrim biYehuda hayu osim melacha be'arvei psachim ad chatzot, uVagalil lo hayu osim kol ikar. Halayla bet Shammai osrin uvet Hillel matirim ad hanetzach hama." The rabbis say in Judea, people would perform labor on Passover Eve until midday. And in the Galilee, they would not perform labor on Passover Eve at all. With regard to performing labor on the night before, Bet Shammai prohibit and Bet Hillel permit doing so until sunrise, which is something that the Gemara would ask the question, what do you mean the night before? You say there's a dispute about the day itself, whether you could work until noon, and now you tell me that it's forbidden even at night. Where did this come from? So the key to understand this Mishnah is the key also to the other, and that is, what is the nature of Erev Pesach? What is Erev Pesach at all? What is the definition of that day? We think of Yudalet Nisan today as Erev Pesach, right? Is the eve of Pesach, but that's not its name in the Torah. In the Torah, Yudalet Ben Nisan is called Chag Pesach, and Tedvav Benisan, the next 7 days are called Chag Matzot. Chag Pesach is the day in which you slaughter, you do the sacrifice of Pesach. You don't eat it on Chag Pesach, you eat it on the next day. But that for people was a Yom Tov. In the time of Bet HaMikdash, the tradition was that every day when I bring a personal sacrifice, that's my Yom Tov. And it's recorded, at least Second Temple. This is what the rabbis established, that when one brings a personal sacrifice, that's his own Yom Tov. Okay, So that means that Erev Pesach was for people Yom Tov. Now, Pesach, just like we discussed last time about the debate whether to slaughter it on Shabbat or not, it has this unique status of being a public sacrifice that everybody brings, but also a personal one. So when it comes to the issue of the status of Yom Tov, the question is now, not the question, sorry, the status given to Erev Pesach is as Yom Tov for everyone. It's Haga Pesach because everybody brings a korban, right? However, something happens in the Mishnah. The Mishnah was redacted. Some remnants, of course, are from before the destruction of the temple, but some things were added later on. What happens to Erev Pesach or Haga Pesach with the destruction of the temple?
Goes away.
No korban.
It loses its status. It now becomes devoid of meaning. And it's not only Erev Pesach that it happened to. It happened to all the holidays. Every holiday that revolved around the Bet HaMikdash now became sort of empty, unless it had something else to fill it in.
All the other holidays, it says you shall not work.
Right,
But on Pesach, it doesn't say that.
right.
And
And that's why it's a minhag,
Yeah.
right? Because Haga Pesach is not Shabbaton. It's a celebration of the sacrifice. So if you go for the Hagim in order, so Erev Pesach is such a holiday that is only sanctified because of the Korban. Pesach itself, Leila Seder, what we call Leila Seder, revolved around the Pesach. The whole idea was that you eat the Korban together. We just try to visualize, what was Pesach at the time of the temple. That was something exciting. Everybody's hiking to Yerushalayim, thousands and tens of thousands of people. They find their camping places. They all sit together. They do the shechita at the temple. They bring it back. They prepare the guys' night out. That was a guys' night out. It was like fire pits all over Yerushalayim by the thousands, and everybody roasts. They all roast the Pesach at the same time. And the Talmud says about this moment, says kezait pisha umarura uvakar agra mehalela. So meaning everybody would take together more or less the same time a kazait, a little bit of the Pesach with maror, and the roofs would explode with the singing of the Hallel, because it was like synchronized. And back then there was no Haggadah. There was no need to ask questions and move this here, move this there. No, because it's just the excitement of everybody celebrating Pesach together, and Hallel sung, by tens of thousands of people, was amazing. And now that is gone.
Were women there too?
Yes, women were there also. Rabbis. But interesting enough, the way we refer to women is she eating with her husband or with her father? Haisha sheshahat alea ba'ala so it's sort of under the auspices of the men. But fine, so at least she's there. The rabbis filled in. They replaced the Pesach with the Haggadah. The whole thing comes to, and originally the question was shebechol alelot anu ochlim. One of the question was anu ochlim tzali umevushal. Every other night we could eat roast, we could eat it cooked or fried. Tonight we only eat roast because it was about the Pesach, and then they changed it. Then you move on with the holidays. Pesach was good. Pesach was covered. You had something to do on Pesach. The Shavuot didn't have. Shavuot revolved around the sacrifice. Then we added a new meaning to Shavuot, which is Matan Torah. In the Talmud, in the Mishnah, it was not mentioned as like the Matan Torah holiday. Rosh Hashanah, again the korbanot, but now the shofar we spoke about last time was moved from the temple to the Gvulim, every other places. Yom Kippur, now the new focus is on Teshuvah. Even that already was there, but there's more focus on it. Sukkot, good, you have the Sukkot, but Lulav used to be in the temple only on Shabbat, and you're missing on that. Some say that actually Lulav they didn't give a permission to do outside the temple, and then Shmini Atzeret. No, on Shabbat.
Oh.
On Shmini Atzeret is another holiday that lost its meaning because it was only about the special korbanot of the holiday. And that one went for a long time sort of like desolate until probably the 8th, 9th century, when the Babylonian tradition of completing the reading of the Torah in 1 year prevailed. So they rejected the other Eretz Yisrael Minhag, where you finish it in 3.5 years. And they made it 1 year, and they chose Shemini Atzeret. There's no relationship to Simchat Torah, or to Shavuot, or Matan Torah, but it was empty. It was waiting for something to do. So, okay, we'll make it a holiday. And that's what they did. So now, Erev Pesach, what happens? Erev Pesach is all of a sudden, there's no sacrifice buzz. So what do we have here? We have two regions in Eretz Israel that one of them, Yehuda, they keep on working on Erev Pesach until midday. They respect Erev Pesach as leading to Chag HaMatzot, but not Chag HaPesach as the day of the sacrifice. In the Galilee, they didn't work at all. Even though the temple is destroyed, they don't do melacha at all. Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel are the next generation. They come and say, no, you couldn't even work at night. Even though we don't have the Bet HaMikdash, Bet Shammai say, don't work all night. Bet Hillel say you can do it until sunrise. But they both refer to the tradition of the Galil, that you don't work in the day. Now, so think about that. The people of Yehuda are less respectful of the Pesach, not the Pesach itself, the reminiscence of Pesach, than the people of the Galil. And why is that?
The Beit HaMikdash and the people in Galil did not have
Right.
Beit HaMikdash.
And now, should have been opposite. No, the people who were near Beit HaMikdash should have felt more devastated than the people of the Galil. So there could be two things here. Either that the people who had the Beit HaMikdash in their midst, and now it's gone, were so shocked that they just dropped everything. So we don't need that. We don't have the Beit HaMikdash. So what's the point? It's gone. It's never going to come back. And the people of the Galil still entertain hope. But there's another possibility, and that is that the people of Yehuda, because they lived near the temple, it became for them something mundane, right? Something simple, routine. They see it every day, right? When you go as a tourist to Rome and you see the, I think the hotels to everybody is, I don't want to give this example, but you go to where there's a monument, right? Or and your breath is taken away, and you say what do you think? Oh yeah, I know. It's like I see it every day. I don't care. And that went on with the tradition that from the time of the Maccabees, the time of the during the rule of Herod and his descendants, Yerushalayim was a Hellenized city. There was a gym not far from the temple that the Kohanim built. It was built by the Kohen Gadol, and his club. We could go to the gym. There's a Greek theater. There's all these things. The Kohanim were Hellenizers, and the people of Yehuda it was the metropolis. They were more cosmopolitan. They were okay with that. And if you recall, Herod crushed a rebellion of the pious in the Galilee. He was before he fled to Rome and became friends with the Romans and came back with the Roman army, he was the governor of the Galilee, and he fought the pious, the zealots of the Galilee. So the tradition was already established that the more zealous people or the more frum people live in the north of Israel, and in the city live the more modern, open orthodoxy people, right? Whatever it was, Hellenized orthodoxy. Sorry. So now the question we have a battle over the nature of Pesach. It spills from Erev Pesach to Pesach itself. Now, what I'm telling you is my theory. Maybe I'm not corroborate. I think that it all works together, but this part of Erev Pesach is based on the work of my Professor Gilad. He did the whole study of the nature of Erev Pesach. But the next step of connecting it to the Matzah, that's my theory. So after I looked at that and I learned what I heard from my professor, and I read the Haggadah, and all of a sudden I look at this text that we're reading the Haggadah with new eyes. This is from the Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael, which is Midrash Halakha, but we also read in the Haggadah. What do we say? V'higadat lebincha, shomea ani merosh chodesh. You should tell your son, the pasuk says, V'higadat lebincha bayom ahu lemor, ba'avur ze asa Adonai li betzati Mitzrayim. Tell your son, because of this, God made miracles for me when I left Egypt. So it says, V'higadat lebincha, shomea ani merosh chodesh. Is it possible, can I understand from the pasuk, that I could tell him from Rosh Chodesh? What do you mean? Of course, tell him from Rosh Chodesh. We tell about Yetziat Mitzrayim all year round. Why not from Rosh Chodesh? No. The Mechilta goes on to say, Talmud Lomar Bayom Ahu, on that day. So now I ask the question, I Bayom Ahu Yachol Be'od Yom. So if you say on that day, can I do it a little earlier? Be'od Yom. Talmud Lomar Ba'avur Zeh. The verse teaches me, because of that, sorry about the typo, that's my translation here. Because of this, when the matzah and maror are in front of you on the table. So what do we see here? We hear a debate like this. Shomerani is a midrash halakha, makes no sense. Why would, remember that we discussed that in the midrash halakha, that we want to ask, is the conclusion in the text or before the text? What came first? So if I look at the pasuk that says, tell your son on that day, this is why God took me out of Egypt. Would I come and say, can I do it earlier? No, I said that day, right? Why would I think that it would be beforehand, right? So what do we have here? We have here the probably the next step in the process that was taking place in Yehuda, where people are drifting away from the nature of Pesach as it was. And people say this, why did we wait? Why did we have to wait when we had the temple for nightfall? Because the Torah says, bring the Pesach to Yerushalayim, v'zavachta et ha-Pesach ba'erev kevo ha-shemesh mo'etzet ha-Mitzrayim. And then you have to slaughter the Pesach at night, in the evening, at the time, which is, again, all not exactly accurate in terms of time, but obvious that the slaughtering of the Pesach is around nightfall, right?
On the 14th.
Or the 14th, leading to the 15th, right? So people now say, well, we don't have the Pesach. Why wait? I could start the Seder early. So Rabbi Ishmael works it into a midrash. Ve'igata lebincha shomea ani merosh chodesh. Could it support your argument that it's early, maybe on Rosh Chodesh, and that is pushing the argument ad absurdum, right? Like exaggerated. No, you can't. Bayom hahu. Okay. I bayom hahu, if it's on that day, yachol be'od yom. Now you and I come to a place where we could negotiate, right? Bayom hahu, you could tell me Bayom hahu is early in the day, right? On the 14th. Talmud lomar ba'avur zeh. No, the Torah says because of this. And look, בשעה שיש מצה ומרור מונחים לפניך על השולחן. What's missing? Matzah u'maror. There's no Pesach. There's no Pesach. That shows us that it's not an ancient midrash, because if this midrash would come from the period of the temple, he should have said b'sha'a sheyesh Pesach matzah u'maror. And I searched for it in all the versions. It's matzah u'maror. It's clear that's only matzah u'maror. So this is a midrash that was written after the destruction of the temple. There's no more Pesach on the table, because Pesach is the actual sacrifice. The shank bone that we put there is just a symbolic. Some people don't even put roast at all. Some, right?
When did that come about?
The what?
The a symbolic representation of
not in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says Shnei Tavshilin, and the Mishnah speaks about a man from Rome by the name of Thodos or Theodos, has a Latin name, Greek name, Theodos, right? The law of God, who made it a custom in Rome לאכול גדיים מקולסין בערבי פסחים, to eat whole roast goat kids on Erev Pesach. And Rabban Gamliel says, you're lucky. I mean, it's only because you are Thodos that I don't put you under herem, excommunication. You're too important to be excommunicated. But you can't do it because it looks as if you're eating korbanot outside the temple. But otherwise, in Eretz Israel, people stop eating roast on Erev Pesach. But this debate in the Mechilta is clearly an agenda, or like the rabbi is trying to tell people who want to start the Seder early. And we're not talking, around sunset. They want to do it 2 or 3 hours before the beginning of because we don't have Pesach. We only had to wait for Pesach. And they come with this artificial argument, ba'avur zeh, when the Matzah and Maror are in front of you. But I could have the Matzah and Maror earlier. No, then there's a supportive argument. Matzah and Maror never go without Pesach. Today we don't have it, but technically we should have it. So you have to wait till the night. So now,
because when you had the sacrifices, you weren't able to eat it until night.
Right, you have to eat with the matzah. So now roll back.
But was it the sunset? It was night.
Whatever, sunset or night, but not earlier. You
Right.
can You had to eat the actual eating of the Pesach was when it was considered 15th by the Hebrew calendar. So now, if you go back to the Mishnah, which is the third source in the page, Erev Psahim samuch laminha. That's when Bruce asked me like how I read the Mishnah after I read those other sources. I realized what is going on here with the Mishnah. There's a campaign against starting moving the Pesach, the Seder ahead into the day, not because it's forbidden so much, but because you're completely going to eradicate the importance of the Mikdash and the services, right? So now we read it this way. Erev Psahim samuch laminha, on the eve of Passover, adjacent to Minha, lo yochal adam, a person may not start eating until dark. Does it make sense now? You can't start the meal of Pesach
Right.
until darkness.
Right.
It fits perfectly.
Right. Yes.
But not only fits perfectly, it fits with the second phrase. Because what is the second phrase? Afilu ani shebiYisrael lo chal ad sheyasev. Even the poorest person cannot eat unless he's reclining. With the first understanding, that made no sense. Because you're telling me that Erev Pesach, you're not supposed to eat. Then you skip into the Seder and say you have to recline when you eat the Seder. There's no connection. But if I speak about the laws of the Seder. First, you can't start until night. Second, you can't start unless you're reclined. Third, you can't start unless you have 4 cups of wine. There's a pattern. It makes sense, right? לא יאכל אדם עד שתחשך, לא יאכל עד שיסב, ולא יפחתו לו מ4 כוסות של יין מן התמחוי. It's all law is not necessarily the ani, is for him and the ani. Okay, so now we still have the question of what is the story with the arusa? What is the story with intercourse? Why is it thrown into the matzah, right? So now roll back down to Mishnah Ktubot. And we have this story. האוכל אצל חמיו ביהודה שלא בעדים, אינו יכול לטעון טענת בתולים. He who eats at his father-in-law's home in Judea without witnesses cannot make a claim of her lack of virginity because he enters into seclusion with his wife, with his betrothed, right? Now, the words in brackets are commentary, not necessarily in the Mishnah. האוכל אצל חמיו ביהודה שלא בעדים not necessarily refers to the betrothal meal. Could be any meal. Why is that? Because he stays with his future wife. And then the Gemara goes on the Mishnah goes on to discuss other things. There's another source, which I didn't quote here, that uses other words. Maybe I'll show you here. Once again, here. This is, I have to share it for those who are watching. This is in Masechet Yevamot. The Mishnah says, what happens if someone, if a woman lost her husband or her arus, they can marry. She can get married. She has to wait. If a woman is widowed in the time of the Talmud, she had to wait 3 months to make sure that she's not pregnant. Today, there's a big debate about that. If the pregnancy test is enough, many rabbis say no, it's not enough. She said have to wait. Others say what is the? We know, whatever. But here, Rabbi Yehuda says the following. He says a woman who was only engaged can get married because we know she's not pregnant. Except for the women of Judea. Why? Now, it's not the same as it's the word gasba is like they're his callous. Like they don't care about privacy or modesty. So what the Gemara says the Mishnah says in Yevamot is that in Yehuda they didn't respect so much the separation period between the Erusin and the Nisuin. So now everything falls into place. The rabbis killed 2 birds in one shot. We'll go back to the Yerushalmi. Look what they said. Now it makes so much sense. The Yerushalmi and the Malkot. Amar Rabbi Levi, ha'ochel matzah be'erev Pesach. If you eat matzah on the eve of Pesach, ke'ba'al arusato bevet hamiv. It's like one who has intercourse with his betrothed in the house of his father-in-law, which means you are from Judea. Those are the same people who disrespect the laws of Erusin are the same people who disrespect the time that you have to wait for matzah. So when he says ha'ochel matzah be'erev Pesach, the focus is not on matzah. The focus is on ochel. If you make an official meal on Erev Pesach and you eat matzah, and now this is your Seder night, that means that you disrespect our longing for the temple, and that you belong to the people of Judea, or Hellenizer, or callous, or whatever. And the rabbis of the Galilee, right? All these rabbis lived in the Galilee. We know after the destruction of the temple, all the centers after Yavneh, Tzipori, Pki'in, Tveria, they were in the Galilee. So they're rebuking them. This is not the way to go.
What was the motive? People wanted to create Passover earlier. You talked about it briefly, but I mean, why was there this?
Right. So not in our mentality, maybe it's not that important, but for them, when you think about people who worked in the fields all day, and or they worked physically. If you have a day off, which is Erev Pesach, okay, we work until midday, and then we go home and we have a nice meal that goes into the night. Especially if you go with the Roman tradition that you had many courses, and maybe that was the motive. But maybe the motive was just I want to show that I don't care that now we don't have the temple. Let's change the rules. Yeah. But there was a real battle between the rabbis and the people who are pulling elsewhere. But what is interesting here in this whole discussion is that the Mishnah was written with a specific thing in mind. The Mishnah doesn't even mention matzah. The commentary mentions matzah. That takes it to the next level. Speak about all the people of Judea. The Talmud doesn't understand it because by the time the Talmudic discussion starts, in 200-300 years later, this is gone already. That's
not an issue.
That trend has disappeared. So they have. So is it Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosei? Why do we repeat? The answer is there's no comparison. Arvei Shabbatot ve'yamim tovim don't eat. It's about having appetite. Erev Pesach is about respecting the holiday. And what happens next? Rambam incorporates it into the Mishneh Torah, and he says, "Asru hachamim lechol matzah be'erev Pesach kedei sheyeker." So you recognize that you eat matzah on at night, and if you ate it, you're going to get lashes. And then the scribe threw in, "Okay, we'll kill you also for that." But this is really something like the way we have to approach the halakha, and to do ask these questions. Now, so what is the implication today? What does it matter? We don't eat matzah Erev Pesach, right? I agree. Nobody, it's not like we have crazy cravings to eat matzah on Erev Pesach that we can. But there is one time where it is an issue. When Erev Pesach falls on Shabbat, you have to eat 3 meals, or you have to have real meals. And you can't eat with matzah because it's Erev Pesach. And you can't eat bread because you haven't. And if you wait to after you go back from shul, 11:30, 12, who knows when. It's going to be too late. What are we going to do? Maybe fried matzah, maybe matzah shira, which is egg matzah or fruit, whatever. The answer is very simple. If we understand the halakha that you can't eat matzah, this came from a period where people were trying to move Pesach ahead. The prohibition is not about achilat matzah, but starting the seder much earlier. Of course, if I write it or publish it and say it's okay to eat matzah Erev Pesach, I'll get the lashes. So I'm not going to do it. But that's I think that it sheds light on the process of how things could be misunderstood out of context, and then how it leads to halakha development. So now if you ask someone, it's written. Of course it's written. They have,
But there's also כדי שייכנס לאכילת מצה בתאווה.
That's Rambam again. Right. So he combines.
But it's another idea that would also be a reason not to be eating matzah on Erev Pesach,
but that,
regardless of the issue of the timing and the
yes, because Rambam felt that maybe that's not enough of an argument.
So he just added another.
He added the other one that really belongs to other Yamim Tovim, and then he says, but you can eat a little fruit or vegetables, but don't fill yourself up. And the other sages would starve themselves on Erev Pesach. So you have the full. He says, like ideally, you don't eat at all. You can eat some fruit and vegetables, but there are no parameters. Rambam likes to set clear parameters, and you can't do it here. I think he felt uncomfortable himself with that statement of you can't eat matzah at all because of the hekel. So he threw in another explanation.
And that would be the same for Shabbat and Yom Tov?
Shabbat and Yom Tov would be only about the appetite. Yes.
But you're also not supposed to eat.
That, so according to one opinion, according to another opinion, you could eat. And that was, by the way, the custom in many places, that you eat at home and you start early. And when Shabbat starts, you cover the thing, you say Kiddush and you finish, and then you say Arvit. And then again, it's not something that you want to do on a regular basis, with one exception. When Purim falls on Friday, and if you have the Purim meal, Seudah, late in the day, how are you going to do so? The minhag was in some places, start the Salat Purim about an hour, 2 hours before sunset, go on with the Seudah. Shabbat start, you say Kiddush before Arvit, and then you finish the Seudah and you say Arvit.
Can't you view this as another way? Maybe it's similar to how you're looking at it, but it's just creeping of restrictions. Like there's an initial restriction, and then people will say, well, if this is restricted, and then it's sort of accretive until you get to the Rambam and he's slashing people.
Yeah, it's almost right. And it's not only here, it's almost in any halakha that you look at. Like I said, beyond that, the Rambam at least said don't eat matzah. But then people took it the next level, don't eat it 30 days before Pesach. And don't, matzah shira, you can eat egg matzah, you can't eat celery, boiled eggs. Okay. Salt water. You can't have before Pesach. Okay. So we'll conclude here, at least the video, and then we can stay for a question.
Right? You can have more.
You can have more, whatever you want, yeah.